Next up, we have Dwayne. Hey, Dwayne, what's your talk subject?
What's that?
What's your talk subject?
I don't know. I haven't written it yet.
Okay, good.
All right, so that's the slides. If you want to get them, that tiny URL. I love tiny URL. They should pay me because I talk about them so much. But this is stand up straight security posture news. So I'm going to invite you all to do a really quick exercise with me physically. If you feel comfortable, stand up. If you don't, stay where you're seated. That's fine. Either way is good. But stand up if you can. And we're going to do a couple, 3 stretches. Just feel your body, and you're going to just reach up real high as you're comfortable with. And again, take care of yourself. And then you're going to reach real low. I mean, don't bend down, but bend your knees a bit. And then I want you to assume a posture like someone's going to push you from behind and you don't want to fall down. So whatever that is for you. Like, yeah, for me it's like that. Now assume someone's running at you, going to tackle you, and you don't want to fall down. What's that posture look like? All right. Now imagine there's a box, weighs about 10 pounds, not going to kill you, but it's a big box and it's going to drop straight on your head. What's the posture you would do for bending yourself on that? For me, I'd bend my knees a little bit and do that. Now, which was the best posture? That's the whole rest of this talk. I'm Dwayne. You can go ahead and sit down. I live in Chicago. I came down here for this. And I co-host the Security Repo podcast. Check it out. We got some amazing guests coming up. And I love talking about rock and roll. And I love baseball, so let's go to the baseball game later. I work at Gate Guardian. They're going to come up a couple points in this talk, but not much. We do secrets detection and remediation at scale, honey tokens, false credentials that attract attackers so they can give themselves away, IC misconfiguration, source composition analysis, our new hotness, and public monitoring of GitHub for your secrets, and do the open source intelligence to tie it back and that's your secret somebody else put out there. I'll talk to you about that in the hallway all day. All right, so who here works on a security team? I give a lot of talks at security conferences, so not surprised. But who here tries to improve the security inside of your code in your company? It should be all your hands, yeah, but yeah. Who knows exactly what's the next thing you have to work on to make your company the most secure? I want to talk to you later. Yes, that's good. That's good we have some hands come up, but yours like shout up, so I'm curious. Because we're faced with this every day. It's not just security, it's everything we do. It's like, what do we do next? Do we go to the Jira board or the Kanban or whatever? Do we fight the last emergency and respond to the last big thing that happened? Do we pay attention to the regulatory changes and try to be compliant? Compliance is not security, but security does overlap with compliance quite a bit. Do we change based on the latest news that broke? We have to react to things sometimes. Just do. It's not a fire for us, but it's a fire across the industry. I don't know if you remember CrowdStrike or not, but that's a thing we had to respond to. It's confusing. We feel like this dog here is like, what do I do next? How do I actually improve? Well, we live in this thing, really the fog of war. Anybody remember Warcraft, the original game? Yeah, we're old. Well, I'm getting old. But the fog of war is I don't know what's around here. I don't know what's outside of the area I have vision into, but I need to do something with all this space and this land. And that's what security posture management basically helps answer. Like, what do I do next to lift the fog of war to figure out what's the actual things that can make a change? Not just compliance, not just we're tuning this, we're doing that, but what's the big changes we can make that have the most impact? And I think it comes down to these 4 things. It's priorities, what should I work on next, based on risk, which is going to be the most expensive thing that happens, and we'll talk about that a little later, and in context of how do I know we need to fix that thing? Is that thing relevant for what we need to do as a company and for the business case? And finally, is it going to take a lot to fix this? We got to balance all these things, and the security posture management's really, really meant to solve that. Because I don't know if you use security tools, but this is the world of security tools. You get a lot of alerts. A lot of these are false positives. Some are false negatives. There's weird stuff going on, and you're just confronted with it. And that's why developer tooling and security tooling rarely get along. Is security's like, here's all your problems, and developer tooling is like, here's how you do your job faster. SPM, security posture management in general, is meant to collapse all of that into one field. And I know it's the promise of the single pane of glass that we've been promising literally since the beginning of computer science. You can go buy this, actually. If you want to buy a single pane of glass, it's $10. And you'll have a single pane of glass for all your security needs. It would be just as effective as any other one you bought, but it's a lot less expensive. So security posture management breaks out into 4 major categories as we stand here today. Technically 5 because Kubernetes is its own, but I lump it in with cloud, forgive me. This is fairly new. If you're like, I have never heard of ASPM, I've never heard of CSPM, you're not alone, and they're fairly new, and it's evolving rapidly. ASPM is the one I focus on the most in my work because I work in AppSec. So there was a lot of things before it that kind of tried to solve the problem. This is a new way to try to solve it, and there'll be a future where we keep trying to solve it in different ways. This is a completely accurate, 100% realistic map of a network and all your services. This is the full extent of my ability to draw things too, and apparently format. CSPM, cloud, just dive into it. Cloud security posture management focuses on your cloud services and how the users will connect to it. And it cares about things like anonymous clients, traffic, unencrypted S3 buckets, suspicious OS processes, and you use it on things like AWS and Azure and other things that live as a cloud platform. Who here uses or interfaces with a CSPM at some point in their day? Yep. As DevOps people, if you aren't now, be familiar with it. Kubernetes has its own set of concerns, but it gets lumped in here with a lot. These are the companies that you might have heard of. CrowdStrike upside down because they're upside down in my opinion. But Wiz, Zscaler, PingSafe, they all offer some version and variation of this. Did you get it right? Because if you don't get it right at cloud, you get it wrong in one place, wrong in cloud, you're probably getting it wrong in every other instance you got in cloud. Spring Boot loader incident that took down a major car manufacturer. I let a security expert get in through backdoor and pwned all of their GitHub repos because they misconfigured it wrong in one file, in one line, and it went to 1,000 servers. SSPM, SaaS SSPM. It's concerned about all those services that you're setting up and using. Shadow IT. How many people have dummy data that you use whenever you're testing out a new service or a new thing? Should be everybody's hand. In this room, I think it'd be mostly you're testing out because you know what you're doing. How many people think their marketing team's doing that? The marketing team has all your customer data, and they're putting it directly in things they're testing. So SSPM is talking about things like, all right, did we have weird traffic? Are weird devices attached to it? Or who gets access? Do we have third parties that we're not thinking of get access to this? Across the board, do you name a service? There's something for it. I think this is the weakest of all the areas because it's trying to do so much across so many things, but you're still going to run into it occasionally, and it's good to know it. Obsidian, my opinion, is my favorite. App Omni, Netscope, Signet, Adaptive Shield. If you run into those, that's what they're trying to solve, this problem of the SaaS. Data, there is a particular model of security that says if you just follow the data, everything else takes care of itself. Why worry about the application machinery? Because all we're trying to guard is the PII. All we're trying to guard is the data that the attacker's trying to get at. I disagree with that because you still need to guard the machines because people can steal your machines and sell them on the dark web and spin up their own crypto mining operations. Who knows that you can buy Azure instances for pennies on the dollar on the dark web? Don't do it. Don't do it. You will get caught. Data security posture management cares about, well, your data. The biggest one is that top one, in my opinion. This is why there's an entire market for it, is the data discovery. Where is your data within your systems? Hook up our device, plug it in, and let it run, and we will tell you every bit of data across your entire infrastructure. Just realizing it looks purple on that screen for some reason. That's fine, it's blue on mine. But yeah, this cares about all the stuff that holds data, basically. These are the companies you're gonna run into. Dig is the one I run into the most in security, with an I. I run into the most just out there. Varanos has the largest footprint that I've seen out there. But again, you run into these companies, if someone in your security team says, hey, we're using this tool, now you know what they're talking about. And then we get to the area where I spend the most time in my life, and that's ASPM application. Because I love OWASP, I love application security, because if we take care of the application, everything else will follow, in my opinion. Again, there's flaws with that, but it's where I believe. So we care about things like, did you hard code a secret into your application? Did you misconfigure the application itself? We care about web apps, message brokers, your NAS, code vulnerabilities, SCAs, software composition analysis can fall in here. It's one of the signals that you're looking for. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But these are the ones you're going to run into. This is the newest because Gartner didn't make this a category until last year, and it's growing fast. The best one is Bionic, but they got bought by CrowdStrike. I'm not turning them upside down because Bionic literally helped me understand this space, and a huge shout out to their videos. Like, go watch their videos and you'll understand ASPM a lot better and deeper. Armor Code's also awesome. We partner with Conducto and Armor Code as a company at GetGuardian. So just want to shout that out. So on a little bit more of the meat of this, how do we measure your security posture? So these are the tools. But as we all know, the tools aren't the practice. As I said yesterday in my lightning talk, we need the right people using the right processes to leverage the right tools to effectively do anything. So the right people are you, the security team working together, you and the security team working together, or in some cases just you. And now we know the tool, but what's around it? What's a good posture? Well, like I said earlier, when that stretching exercise, which was the best posture? Well, depending on the situation, depending on what you were trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. And this is one of the harder parts here because I don't know what you're trying to measure, and I can't give you like a straightforward, solid 100% this is what you do. But I can tell you how to think about risk based on a lot of conversations with CISOs and execs over the last couple years of my life. And Walt Powell, who's the field CISO CDW, if you follow that link from the slides, it goes to our podcast with him, but he also gave this amazing talk about why your board of director deck sucks and why you're miscommunicating risk. And this is the summary of it. Risks are not threats, they're not vulns, they're not exploits. They're what you're set to lose if things go bad. Your board of director has no idea what an exploit is. In fact, that's the next slide. Well, anyway, I think I took that slide out. But anyway, they don't know. They're going to stare at you. You say technical debt? Yeah, we have debt. Yeah, we have net 120s. What are you talking about? Of course we run on debt. It's hard to communicate this stuff. But if you can put it in terms of, hey, we're going to lose money if we don't do this thing that's way cheaper right now, you might have a better conversation. There's a little bit of math, not a great bit of math, but a simple math. You, as the person who understands threats, exploitability, and criticality, or you working with your security team, can ask these questions like, what is the likelihood of a successful attack? If it is, I left my password out, they got copy-pasted to Pastebin, and once they're in, they can pwn our entire GitHub repo, that's a high likelihood they're going to succeed with that. If it's, they would have to get the specific version that we don't even run anymore to exploit this vulnerability, you're pretty safe. You probably don't have to react to that. Even though your threat detector, your ASPM tool, is screaming at you with an alert saying, hey, this is here, you need to fix this. And you're like, well, technically I don't. We can ignore that one. We can mark that as a false positive. And then the criticality, what would it actually cost you? I work in marketing. I report to a CMO. I do a lot of things for my company. I wear a lot of hats, but if you break into my files and steal my slides, good. I want you to read them. I want you to read all the stuff I wrote. My blog post drafts, you can have them. If you're going to spend the time to read them, good, you can have them. If it was customer data, oh, you shouldn't have that. You shouldn't be able to get to that. That could be about a lot of things. So risk means a lot of things to a lot of people. Like I said, you can't just say, hey, we have this risk. You got to frame it as like, we have this business risk. Our operational, we will be down for a day. One of the best questions you can ask is like, what happens if our entire system just disappears for an entire 24-hour period? If the answer is not much, congratulations, you probably work at a brick and mortar selling stuff with cash. If it's, oh, we will go out of business, you're probably in 2024 working for a tech company. The reality is somewhere in between. Compliance, again, isn't security, but it's important to comply with things because otherwise you're going to get shut down by the government. Legal risks are different. Or am I going to get sued over this? So being able to frame it in the terms of risk, not just threats, not vulns, not exploits, not technical. Oh, here's the slide. I moved it around. Business risk is not a technical risk. The board does not know or care what a CVE is. They care if something is going to make them lose money. Period. Again, Walt Powell. If you're not framing it like that and saying, here's the tool I used to get to this evidence, you're never going to get the momentum to fix it. You're never going to get it built into the process to fix it. You're never going to get the buy-in because you need buy-in to do anything. So quick little desk size. I had no idea this existed before I made this slide deck at the beginning of the year, but you can go find this on YouTube. 35 programs from Slim Goodbody, that little exercises you can do at your desk just to get your blood moving during the day. I highly recommend checking it out. But we're going to do one where you can just sit. I want you to look up here, read these 4, and don't answer out loud, because there has to be a whole discussion we can have later. But which of these would you say, if all of these showed up in your inbox at once, would you say, we got to prioritize and do that one first? I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand. Just think about it. I'll give you about 10 seconds more. For me, it's that last one, but that's me. Especially if I think another developer dumped actual data in our test environment, which happened at one of the big pharma companies last year. Anyway, well, congratulations, you have just done a risk impact analysis. You did it with your gut. You didn't have any real data to go examine. You didn't have to run an algorithm for it. You looked at that and said, based on what I know about the business right now, based on those risks, I can prioritize that based on what I know at the moment. Now, are you right? Do you have anything to back you up? Could you go into a boardroom and say, here's why I did that? No. That's what all the tooling I talked about was for. You show them and say, according to this, we have to fix this now, and our exploitability is very, very high, and the likelihood that we're going to get $1 million loss is imminent. Because you're basing it on facts. Facts tend not to change if they're the truth, and they're timely, and they're machine supported. Machines don't lie unless you tell them to lie. Logs never lie. Logs tell you exactly what happened. Logs are always your source of truth. So we got to think about these SPM tools as aggregating all of our other tools that are in place. SPM isn't a replacement. It can be, but it's not a replacement for all of this stuff. It's a way to aggregate all of these other indicators and to get there quicker. I'm not here to sell you any of these SPM. If you're very comfortable running all these other scans and tests and you already aggregated this yourself, congratulations, you built your own in-house SPM. That's awesome. If you don't have one of these, maybe you need to go talk to one of those people I talked about earlier. But it comes down really to scanning, and ultimately the testing tools you use. I see the world as scanners. I should have said testing, but again, I see the world as scanning. How are you going about this? There are 2 major schools of thought. There's a third that I'll get to, but there's 2 major ones floating out there if you talk to all the vendors. First is you use the tools that you know, love, and trust, that you have spent years using, that you have spent countless hours configuring and tuning, and let's aggregate that data all together from those tools and give you one pane of glass, as close as we can get to it, to let you make the decision on what's the most priority, what do I do next. Of course, the other side of that is throw those out the window and use the one we built for you. If you are starting from 0, I would start with this. If you are an enterprise that already has the others, I'd probably do that. But of course, there's a third model, hybrid. If you say, hey, we need these 5 scanners, we haven't even thought about doing that yet, and this tool not only aggregates, but it will give me access to that, and it will aggregate the other tools I already have in place. Ox Security is the one that does that. They're an ASPM tool. They can do CSPM as far as I know, but anyway, there's models out there that will accomplish that. Because again, you're using these tools to aggregate what you know to make a decision. But just know when you test these things out, the thing you're testing for is bad data. You're looking for what it misses, bad alerts it gives you, and if it gives you alert overload. Too many alerts is way worse than not enough alerts, in my opinion. They're both bad, but not enough means you're definitely looking for the wrong thing. And when you French fry, when you eat pizza, you're going to have a bad time. So, to wrap things up, SPM asks the question, how much risk do I have at this thing? But then you, and this is the thing it really can't help you with because this is dependent on your organization, is how much work is it going to take to fix that? How likely are we to fix that? If it is a folder full of cat photos that you left the password out for, your S3 bucket, and that's the only thing that accesses and the only thing you can get them into, don't fix it. Don't bother. Don't worry anyone with that. If it is something much more severe, like we have to update the versions of 5 components and the platform itself in order to stop this known vulnerability, and we're going to get attacked in the next 32 hours, yeah, you need to fix that. That's a very high likelihood. Those are extremes. Unfortunately, most of us live in the middle there and like, do we do that or not? And how do you do it? Do you just go do it? Probably not. You're probably going to put it on the backlog. You're probably going to ask someone else to do it. When are you going to ask them? Quick question. For those of you that do sprints, the Scrum or any of those kind of agile methodologies, and hopefully you all do because we're at DevOps days, how much, let me ask, who here does not build any code remediation into your sprints? Like it's not something you normally do. It's like code remediation, that's a separate project, that's a separate sprint thing. Cool. Who does up to 10% of any sprint is we're going to remediate code, and we're going to we're going to refactor code throughout this. Up to 10%. Up to 20%? Heck yeah, up to 30%. Okay, 10 is about what I hear. I didn't see everybody's hands on all the one, but it's bright up here. So there's no right answer to that. It's what you got time for. It's what priorities you got. And how are you communicating that? This goes mostly to the security team, not you in the DevOps world, because you're the people that inherit these tickets and say, all right, I got to fix this. But who's ever gotten an alert that just says, or a ticket that just says, got the security alert, good luck. Or they don't even say good luck. I got a security alert, fix it. And you're just staring at it like, what on earth am I supposed to do with this? And now you got to become a security expert. You got to go put on a security hat, you got to go research it. What do I need to update? How do I fix this? Versus, hey, we found this, here's specifically what we need you to do in code, do it as fast as possible, and here's the code sample. Please test it before you actually deploy it, but here's why I think we need to do exactly. Even I could deploy that. It might need a little help, but that with the testing part. Or you could just look at it all and say, this is a garbage fire, and I'm going to walk away. That's always an option. Just know that. You don't have to work there. So, what's the best security posture? What do you do next? It depends. The people that raised their hand earlier and said they know exactly what to fix next, it's either because they have a giant fire on their hands and they're fighting in the middle of it, or they've figured this stuff out at some level enough that they can plan that refactoring and code improvement on a regular enough basis. And I encourage you to talk to each other, because I only know so much. I'm not an expert in anything other than talking. And even that I struggle with sometimes, depending on how many drinks I've had. But everyone else has had the experience they can share, and that's the whole point of DevOps days. And that's open spaces later. Have those conversations. Have them in the hallway. Have them at lunch. Just remember that when we're measuring security, we're actually measuring risk. But we're not measuring the thing that says risk on it. The risk is up to you and what you're set to lose if something goes wrong. And that's the whole point of security posture management. So when someone says, what's your security posture? You should have an answer. And it should say, well, what do you mean by security posture? Because if you mean, is our cloud security 100% sewed up and we got our misconfigurations under control, and I can tell you right now, because we use a certain set of tools, we do not have any vulnerabilities in our dependencies. We just eliminated them. That's a great posture for that use case. Data could do it that way. But know that you can say, yeah, but we know what we need to fix next, and we know how to remediate it. That's the best posture you can have. I'm Dwayne. I live in Chicago. Check out the Repo podcast. We have a lot of great guests. And if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer it, but that's where the slides are. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Dwayne, I'm personally can attest to you being able to talk well, even intoxicated.
I talked well. Talk good.
Talk excellent.
I do talk
Do you want to take questions?
Yeah, I'll take questions.
All right. Do we have questions? Where's Chad? Oh.